What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. This is the last video of Mastery, the book breakdown. So let me just jump right in. So this is part 6, fuse the intuitive with the rational. So this is full-blown mastery, and this he calls the third transformation. The story is very good, but I'm kind of just going to skip it because it's very kind of convoluted. But the whole idea of fusing the intuitive with the rational is that once you get to a certain point of mastery, you're going to be able to one, base your decisions off of intuition, but then also kind of weave them in with the intense rationality over like 20,000 hours of accumulated work and understanding, and the neural connections that your brain is making from all of that intense volume of knowledge. Now you can kind of use that, once we began going back to that original mind, like that creative ability to kind of make those quick intuitive connections because you've mastered a subject so deeply. And the whole idea is that this type of mastery is only developed from consistently working on the same thing and kind of going through all the trials and tribulations of, you know, beating repetitively on your craft. And then if you kind of never lose like connection with your life's task in the end, like from the beginning of the book, mastery is almost inevitable, because that's what you'll always be chasing and working towards for your whole life. The whole root of mastery and intuition kind of comes from just how we were ancestrally, you know, kind of developed. So for most every other animal, speed is almost the speed or agility are really the kind of, and maybe just pure strength are the real indicators of survival and of like the utmost important, but mostly speed, because you got to catch the animal or run away. But for us, it was more being able to kind of reason and break things down. So our ancestors had the ability to kind of break away from the environment, break away from the immediate situation, and, you know, calculate long distances, notice behaviors to track other animals. And this is really just kind of how we developed over time and developed this intuitive form of intelligence, and really just kind of break down phenomena faster. That is what we have the ability of, is after long periods of observing these different things, we can kind of break things down really quickly to have those shortcuts, but we have good shortcuts. So the next part is the return to reality. So he talks about the ultimate reality, and that everything in life is interrelated and it all came from the same life form. Human minds tend to go in one of two ways. So one, to find distinctions, like, you know, specialization of narrow fields, or to make connections to everything. The ultimate distinction that everybody's making is between or you're making, or just anybody, is between yourself and the world. And we actually are more connected than we really kind of process in our brain. And what mastery does is makes you resemble more of the physical world. So now he goes into strategies for attaining mastery. So one is really just to connect to your primal powers. So and this is something he kind of mentioned before, is like deep within us is that we actually have a lot of like animalistic type of abilities that the Western world has kind of driven out. And, you know, being a keen observer of the world and just how things really function just really kind of gives you that ability to you know, attain mastery and have different creativity and make different connections than other people really could make, because they have more of a rigid and separatist type of view of themselves and the world as a whole. So the next one is play to your strengths, supreme focus. The whole idea here is that, you know, mastery is going to take a long time. So take these primal powers, primal inclinations that you have, and you really want to focus on your strengths. Focus on the things that you're interested in, and because that, in terms of the hours of drudgery, you want it to be something that, you know, you can spend that time doing. So focus on your strengths and kind of moving towards those, and you know, kind of working with what you're given instead of trying to fight it is a good strategy. The next one is really transforming yourself through practice. So over and over, I mean, practice and repetition is a key with this book. But after you do something for a while, you start to get a fingertip feel for what you're doing. Probably the thing that I'm ever had the most experience with, for me, was wrestling. And I wasn't even like that great, but I had an ability where, like, and I think anybody at the level I got to, where you could completely, I could have my eyes closed, and as long as we were within like 6 inches to a foot of each other, I pretty much knew where you were. Like, I could kind of feel you on the mat. I could feel your movement, your breathing. But after years of practice, and especially if you're touching, like, I know exactly where everybody's limbs are. I know where your arm is. I know where your leg's gonna be. I know where your foot's gonna be. It's like I had a fingertip feel of every little shift in weight on what was going on, because of just that repetition, that, you know, you could just control the whole thing. And it's similar to driving. You know, first time you drive, it's hard to judge everything. Now when I drive, I feel like I'm part of the car. Like, you know, do I have room? Not just is there room in the car. It's like, you know, the car has almost become an outer body to me. I know when I'm gonna scrape up the wall, you know, of my car. I know how low the hood is to, you know, or the front of the car is to the ground. Next is really internalizing the details in the life force. So this goes back to Da Vinci, and really just kind of seeing what are the details that connect, you know, maybe to the public of whatever you're doing, or how the details kind of interact with the entire whole, and just using that as something that you're focusing on. Like, just as kind of life works and where things are going, where are the details, and focusing on the details and not just that whole, as in the last section. So number 5 is really kind of widening your vision, and just having the global perspective, and really just kind of not staying within your bubble. And a lot of this, I mean, these stories are great and really greatly exemplify, and that's why I would suggest getting the book. But, you know, kind of not being pushed into a corner. And, you know, they use the story of Freddie Roach and some of the mitt work he created. He actually went and had to see the Cuban fighters and incorporated things from different walks of life, different cultures, to create a great whole, which was able to be put on display with Manny Pacquiao and a few of the other people he coaches. And now, in this day and age, I mean, this is post this book, but now he's training UFC fighters. So he's using that global perspective, bringing everything to the game, incorporating everything into his arsenal. And the next one is number 6, which would be submit to others, the inside out perspective. And what this is used for is for Daniel Everett, who is an anthropologist. But basically, this is that, you know, when you get into a field, don't come in with all your preconceived notions. You want to kind of be a sponge and absorb what other people are doing, and kind of understand it from their perspective and see it from their shoes, not be an armchair anthropologist. And what I mean by that is, like, kind of just looking at the back, using what you've already discovered and making your different assessments, but actually going within and seeing it from their perspective, and then making your assessments based on that. So number 7 in the last strategy is synthesize all forms of knowledge, the universal man or woman. And what this is not being defined by, you know, just whatever you first do. So a lot of times people that are kind of masters in their craft, and somebody I'm just kind of thinking of off the top of my head, I know I use a lot of rap examples, but somebody like Childish Gambino, who's actually Donald Glover, who's a writer, he's not really defined. You know, he wrote for 30 Rock, and he wasn't defined by that. And then he was on the Community, and he's not defined by that. And then he did some stand-up. He's not defined by that. He's doing the Atlanta. He's a rapper now. He's not defined by that. So it's like not being defined by what you do immediately, and having the freedom to synthesize all forms of knowledge. So, you know, being able to kind of go from one thing to another. And then this will allow you to create those really big masterpieces in the end, because you'll be able to make associations from so many things. Really, the reversal here, and this whole last chapter was a lot about, like, kind of summing everything up and doubling down on it. He says there's really the reversal to mastery is to deny its existence. to just act like things just happen to certain people. You will have kind of what he calls as the false self, which is an accumulation of internalized voices of other people that kind of direct your life. And what you're looking for is the true self, and that's uniqueness communicated from deep within. And this isn't something that can be spoken with words, but it's more through kind of sensations and powerful desires. And the false self is something that kind of denies that mastery and the ability to reach this level even exists. And at the end of the day, it exists for a reason. We were evolutionarily evolved for this type of understanding, and your life's task is really just to bring this mastery to fruition, whatever your particular inclination might be. But that's it for all this. As promised, I was gonna finish this series, this project. Like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you don't like. Once again, it's your boy Devin Coach. Thanks a lot for tuning into the channel, and until next time, peace out.